How do you feel?
Good. I feel good.
Yeah.
I haven't been feeling good. I actually, okay, did you see what I just did there? Like normally, like when, like, okay, you meet somebody on the street and they're like, hey, how are you? And you're like, I'm great. And it's actually like, that's not what the fuck's going on. But like, what are you supposed to do? Like, I'm sad. I'm a little sad today. I actually, I kind
feel
of
like shit.
Yeah, I have gas. You can't say that. So you're just like, I'm great. Oh yeah, because nobody wants to hear all that. But anyway, I have not been feeling great, and it's been the coolest thing ever. I just want to say, I think this is really good for us. I really like talking to you.
I like talking to you.
And I think too, like, okay, so we were just talking, what was it? I'm sorry, I'm going to get back into not feeling great here in a minute, but I just want to feel like I have something nice to say before I start talking about how I don't.
Excellent.
Okay, is that cool with you?
It is cool.
We were talking, what was it? Was it yesterday or the day before? And I'm like, oh my gosh, there was a memory on like social media that popped up, and it was a time where we had been dating for quite some time, and it said 13 years ago, and I was like, wait, what? Like, we've almost been together like 14 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's rounding into the 14-year mark, and I'm just like, I have never in my life. Isn't that so cool?
It is cool. Yeah, good for us. We did it.
Well, sharing your life.
It's not easy.
Someone, it's not. Like, I love it when people who've been together for like 6 months give me like relationship advice. I'm like, yes, please tell me, how do you make it work?
Yeah, right.
And I'm from no
good
like,
for them, man.
I'm not judging them. They're just in that like
they don't know yet.
That part's
like
so
when,
hard.
Like when you do,
but
like when you overcome something that's kind of hard, and you're like, oh man, I'm awesome.
Yeah.
And then you find out later, like, damn, that wasn't even hard yet.
Yeah, not from like a place of judgment, like,
yeah,
okay, like, tell me, how do you do it? Like, you know what I mean? But it's just like, I think that is it. Not a place of judgment, but you're also thinking like, you have no idea. You have no idea. And the thing of it is, like,
wait until you don't like this person for a few days, but you still have to love them. Yeah,
like, everybody has like trials and tribulations, and there's always like a spectrum of like what they're able to take, or like kind of okay, like there's a spectrum of like what you yourself, what you and your relationship, so you and your partner together, and then like there's like this weird societal like baseline of like, oh, how fucked up was that, or how weird was that, or how bad was that,
or like
how
outside judgment.
Yeah, but like you kind of know like where that lies with like the like what is the middle of all the experiences that you've ever heard. Do you see what I'm saying? Like and then you kind of measure out how you feel with like what you're able to, like what you feel is like an awesome thing and a not so awesome thing, but then you have like your connection with that person, right? And then you kind of have like this weird baseline of like society's spectrum of good and bad, and like, okay, like where am I registering that? You know what I mean? And it all kind of works together, and I've never really thought about it like that until just now, but that is really the truth. But we were talking about like being together for that long, and I think that when we get together and we do like just, it's just a podcast. You know what I mean? We're just sitting, we have these conversations all the time, and it's weird because we're now officially like sharing it with other people. I mean, we've done like little lives on social media where we just kind of have conversations, and that was
those were so popular.
Well, that was the first indicator that like we do have really, to me, very interesting conversations that people seem to enjoy. But it's not that I take it for granted, it's that I forget how
it's not normal. Maybe not normal for everybody. It is something to be grateful for. I definitely noticed that about you when we first started dating. Like, I would say interesting, deeper stuff to you, and you wouldn't like glaze over and be like, oh, what the hell is he talking about? You'd be into it, man. We would just talk about weird stuff. That's such a cool thing to have.
Yeah. It really, I guess I'm coming from, like, when you asked me that question and I was like, I haven't been doing really great. Like, things are great. Like, my life is great. And it's really cool that we have the resources to kind of pull stuff like this together, and we can pick our schedule. Like today, I was like, hey, like, what are you doing today? Because we normally would be like filming these things on another day, like a specific day that was designed for like filming these things, just to stay consistent within what we want to do.
Yeah.
Because it always feels good. I feel like you and I are very connected after we do things like this.
Yeah.
So totally. all around, it's a very cool thing.
Do you remember our first ever shot at like making a podcast? We had no proper equipment. We just sat down at this table in I think our living room, and we had some questions for each other.
Oh yeah.
And we did it. I listen to that like once a month.
Really?
Yeah, because something happened during that podcast. It was really interesting. Like, neither one of us knew what to expect. We'd never done it before, and we were thinking about what it'd be like to say stuff that other people could hear. But somehow, like, immediately we went into like this real intimate connection. And I think we both noticed, like, it's really nice to have an excuse to sit uninterrupted and talk to each other with, you know, eye contact and vibrations. And because we do it a lot, but even when we're doing it in life, it has like cell phones going off and kids and dogs and cats and stuff that needs done.
We're like talking about like our expression in this life and the connection to everything, and then you just hear our 8-year-old go, Dad, will you wipe my butt?
Yeah.
Dad, I need my butt wiped.
That's
I'm
it.
like, oh, look at yourself.
Yeah. So
she's probably going to hate that I said that. Like, she's probably going to be older and be like, gosh, I can't believe she said that. They don't know which one it is.
Well, I won't overlap a picture.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Here she is. This is where this is her social security. Yeah. No.
So it is nice to talk to you. And in general, I think it's a lost art of conversation. I'm wondering if that's why people like podcasting so much. Because they're like voyeur. They're watching people do this thing that's so important to humans. I think it might be underrated. How important it is for people just to make eye contact and exchange ideas and to listen to each other.
I actually have. It's
in person.
Yeah.
In person.
Yeah. It's crazy because we've been kind of talking about just this. It's so weird, like when you sit down and you decide what you're going to talk about, but that specific thing has been popping up for me. Like, I have a couple of girlfriends who, like, I would say they are a lot younger than I am, right? Like, you know, you have like all different kinds of friends. Some of them are older, some of them are younger.
Yeah.
Well, I have some younger friends that I really care about, and they are very interested about some of the things that like you and I have been getting into, like separately and together, like a lot of the spirituality stuff. And one of the things that you would not consider to be like, oh, I'm very spiritual, I'm healing myself, I'm on a healing journey, but how the importance of eye contact and how what do you call it, how that can scare you or intimidate you to look. So I really do practice with them. Like, I want you to practice with me, and we will just sit.
You help people like practice making eye contact?
Absolutely.
That's great.
Absolutely. I meet like in these women's circles, and there was, and I know that, I mean, obviously I'm going to keep this very like vague because
it's private.
It's private, and it's a sacred space, but I think it is important enough to talk about, because I think that if you don't feel that way, you don't know how that feels. So you don't have, like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't realize, like, okay, I can look at somebody, but that is very intimidating for some people.
It is.
Especially people who have been hurt, especially like women.
Especially if
like,
you are really strong. Like, if you are very present for somebody and they're not used to that, it'll break them. I've noticed.
We sat in a circle, and, you know, I said, hey, this this is something that has been popping up for a lot of the people that I love around me. And it's something that I'm pretty good at, especially if I'm really here in the present moment. I can really just look into you and feel that connection, and it feels good to me. But once upon a time, that was not the case. And I do feel like it's important enough to at least practice with each other so that we can feel how that feels, and maybe transmute looking into someone's eyes and not feeling scared or intimidated, but allowing yourself to feel comfortable and connected. And so when you can kind of train or program yourself a little bit, or to practice doing that, it's like a game changer.
It is. I think it's the first step. Interestingly, we'll talk at each other as people without making eye contact. It sounds insignificant, but actually eye contact sometimes is enough. You don't have to say anything. That's like step one. Step two would be then exchange ideas once you're connected to somebody. And I like the way you do it intentionally on getting people to practice that. I don't do that. I do kind of a sneaky trick where if I'm talking to somebody and they're all over the place, I'll stop moving and stop talking until they look at me in the eyes. And I don't think they notice it, but there's something strange when the conversation breaks and somebody even stops moving. You have to like look and see what they're doing, and then I catch them.
Yeah. Like, what's even more fucked up is when they don't notice it and they just keep talking and say, see you later, bye.
Yeah. That happens to me often, actually.
Well, yeah.
I let them go. I don't. My ego wants to kick in and be like, make these motherfuckers acknowledge your existence. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Let them live their life. If they don't want to be in this moment here with me, that's fine.
I was actually...
But I'm also not going to give them any more words.
Right.
Like, you're on your own.
I was listening to this, I don't know if it was a psychiatrist. It was some sort of psychiatry type person, right? And they were talking about...
Head shrinker.
Yeah, the head shrinker. And it was interesting because I've really been trying to work on like emotional intelligence. And so they were trying to give examples of like someone who has low emotional intelligence. And it is someone who takes over the entire conversation and does not allow you to speak whatsoever. And then they say, oh man, I got to go. Bye.
And the last word. They dominate it and the last word.
And the last word. And then you find yourself sitting there and you have not said anything. They did not ask you anything. Like, that is when you know that, like, and I really, like, and I don't think it's like, oh God, like, fuck them, you know, but I think for me, knowing that, I can relate to both sides of that, especially with
sides.
Like, the person who's receiving all of that, that's happened to me before. And I've also done that to other people.
That's what's most useful. It's not that useful to evaluate that stuff happening in other people. It's really useful to notice when you, like I do that. I'm like, oh man, I just did that damn thing where I didn't even stop and look at them and see what was happening inside of their head. I didn't give them a chance. I hate it when I do that.
Well, I think we did like a podcast on like diagnoses.
Oh,
like where people are not looking at something and saying, okay, if I'm struggling with this, let's look at this and figure out how I can heal myself from this. Instead, they're like wearing it as a hat, where it's like, oh, look at me, I'm ADHD. This is the reason why I'm not going to do shit about this, or I might. And the dangers of that. But that's what I'm talking about with the example that I saw, looking on that. Like, I'm not like, well, I just have low emotional intelligence sometimes, or maybe I'm emotionally intelligent and I can realize that this is for me.
Yeah, people say emotional intelligence all the time, and I'm sure it means something important, but I don't know. I don't quite understand what that means.
Just manage. Okay, so like being able to manage a conversation or feelings or a connection in a healthy way. That's what I think when I think like
it sounds like a skill to me.
It like it's
but the name suggests it's something you're born with or not.
I think it's more like, am I a doctor? No, but my personal opinion is like, I think a lot of it is like behaviors too. Like if you are taught to communicate in a certain way at a young age, like if you don't really intentionally try to change that, the way that you're reacting and responding and connecting and feeling, that's when
you'd say you have like a low emotional intelligence,
which I feel like I have been working on trying to build that way of managing things, because it's cool because I can relate both ways now, and it's kind of dependent on how much practices that I've been doing. You see, like, you're always...
It's a skill.
Yeah.
I believe in people. I don't believe anybody's born without the ability to get good at these things.
Oh, yeah, but it's if they want to. If they've heard the call.
That's it. I think life is full of a lot of excuses. Mm-hmm. And I some people get mad at me because they do have something wrong with them, mm-hmm. right? And they're like, well, I actually do have something that inhibits me. It's a disability in some way. I'm like, yeah, like I get that. And I don't have any room to talk because I'm healthy. But I have seen extremely disabled people do amazing shit. Mm-hmm. So it seems to me like people's, we're all limited by our willingness to try mm-hmm. to get better. I certainly am.
I was there was something I wanted to say about that. And it's hard for me to find the words to do it, but I'm going to try, is that, when people are like, you are perfect the way that you are, or love yourself the way that you are now and today. So God, some people, some people might argue that it's like, no, you have to constantly evolve. You have to constantly grow, and you have to learn more, or you're always going to be the same. That's not perfection. Don't tell people that they're perfect, because nobody's perfect. Loving yourself the way that you are, the other side of it is that you can't say, well, fuck that bitch, I love myself. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think people are misunderstanding what that is. That doesn't mean like never think that, like saying that you are enough right now with the understanding that you will continue to heal and grow and move forward and raise your frequency. I think some people use that as the hat. Okay, like, oh, look at me. I'm just this way. I love myself. I'm perfect just the way I am.
Yeah, I was born perfect.
Yeah.
Well, here's what I think about that. I like your way of saying it because it is very nice. It is so easy to adopt that. What do you say about that? The way I think about it is, we all were born perfect. We are perfect the way we are. But what we are is an animal that can improve and needs to improve constantly. That's part of who you are.
Yeah.
Because you don't get it like this stagnant choice, like, okay, I've arrived and I'm going to stay here. You're either going to regress or you're going to improve. That's sort of the nature of being a human. You're either dying or you're living. Mm-hmm. And if you really believe that everything about you is perfect like it is and you don't need to change, you've just fooled yourself into the worst sort of ignorance.
Why do you think that why do you think that we have used the phrase, you're perfect just the way you are?
Well, there's some truth to that. And it, if you do like enough meditation or spiritual version, like mm-hmm. even if you're not being spiritual, if you're meditating and you're just connecting to your present awareness, you can feel this deep sense of satiation and wellness and lack of need for things.
Like wholeness.
Yeah, and you can realize that a lot of this need that you have and these wants and all these things are just futile reactions to stimulus in your biological reward system, and you actually have everything that you need usually, and that's a really good feeling. And in that way, you are a perfect machine, a perfect biological machine. You were born from stars the same as everybody else. But what you are is a thing of a great potential. You're here to do something, and it requires you to become worthy of that goal and do deeply meaningful things. And you have to try and you have to make effort, or else you're not doing this life thing right, I think.
Okay. Where did you learn that? So everything that you just said, where did you learn that? Because I have some, okay, so I don't want to forget this. Mm-hmm. So you are writing this amazing book, right? And we were just talking this morning about how the editor that is reviewing your book, which, by the way, she said it's mind-blowing and amazing and wonderful, and I'm here to brag about this because I'm super freaking excited about people being able to be informed in the way that you say things in your book. Like, it's almost like I'm living my life through your chapters, and you'll say, oh, and then you'll read something that you've written that has absolutely everything to do with what I'm going. And I'm like, oh my God, you just have this amazing way of putting things. But my question is where does that come from with you? Because the editor has told you several times, like, people don't know that feeling yet, or if they're not as studied, or I don't know.
It's really useful when you're writing or talking anything, doing something formally to get other people's perspective. But how did I get it? Mm-hmm. Man, that's the short answer is I was a weirdo that had to learn how humans even work to socialize as I was growing up. And my education, which a lot of it's done by self, some of it's formal, is of no particular background or path. I was an English major. I did study theology. I've studied spirituality. I've studied authors from all different parts of the world. But I think as I went through life, I've always looked for meaning. What is the contextual meaning of anything and everything? And I'd like to learn about stuff. And I always focus on communication, so I always think of things in different ways. And I think a lot of things people say are actually the same thing said in different ways. So I'm just always trying to find the truth of the matter instead of how I feel about it. Yeah. It's so simple to find out, to me, how I feel about it, because you just get that.
So you were searching.
I'm always searching to find out how things work and why. What's the meaning of it?
And what was the reason why you were searching and continued to be so consistent and diligent with your searching?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I really feel like it was because I didn't even know I was a participant in this world until I was like 7 years old, and I had a really hard time growing up, like socializing, and I didn't understand the idea of self. I didn't like think of me as a thing, and I didn't connect to other people. I just watched how things unfolded around me for most of my childhood life, for the most part, and it all seemed really strange and interesting to me, and I wanted to learn how it all worked. Mm-hmm. And so I guess maybe it was because I was a weirdo. I was on the outside looking in.
Love you.
I was on the outside looking in, like, these people do weird people things, but I don't understand what's happening. So I need to learn, and then I also need to learn how to do it. So maybe I didn't even become reasonably good at socializing until I was like 17, maybe. But that actually, I was always reading and trying to figure out things. And you know what helped me the most, actually? Shakespeare.
Really?
Shakespeare. When I finally found Shakespeare and learned how to read it, which isn't easy, I was like 16. Summer. I turned 16 in the summer, and I read it all, and I was like, "There's a guy. All the answers in one place of how people work."
Didn't you say that, like, Shakespeare was like the reason why we have all of our storylines, or like
he wrote them all?
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Will you talk about that, because it blows my mind?
Well, I'm no expert. There are original stories outside of Shakespeare, but they still have elements. And he didn't even write. He was the first person to write all the stories, but there was something incredible about that author. He just understood the complicated mechanics of people and socialization and human psychology, and in a very deep way that's timeless. The stories are still they're being adapted constantly. And every movie you watch you could relate it back to Shakespeare at a pretty high percentage of plot and summary. It's pretty interesting. And he invented words, you know, I mean.
Like thou'st. Did he invent that one? Because I like that one.
Probably.
No, okay, so do you... so this was when my root chakra was a little off and I was not finding my belongings. So I was buying a bunch of belongings, and I decided to buy our daughter, our youngest daughter, a set of children's Shakespearean stories, books, like a series of books. Mm-hmm. Do you remember? And then she got really into it. I'm like, I can. So it's all the stories of Shakespeare in the tiny little books. And it's supposed to be written in a way that they can understand, so it's like a little bit more simple. I think it's probably 5th or 6th grade level, and I'm sitting here going, I don't get it.
Those stories are raw, though, man. Like, who, you know, the only people that think it's a great idea to hand your kid Hamlet are somebody that never really read Hamlet.
I think it was
to talk about real horror.
Yeah. Well, I was reading her, I think it was like Much Ado About Nothing, and it was like this person was cheating on this person, or you know, like something like shit was popping off, and people were like, I'm gonna marry you, no, I'm gonna do this, and they're lying to their uncle and stuff, and I'm like, hold on, this is for children. I said, I'm 40 years old, I'm having trouble with this. I don't know.
That's right. It's only for children if you want them to know the truth about people.
Yeah.
Which they might not be ready for it yet.
Anyway, okay, so back to...
Yeah, we just keep going off tangents forever and never come back.
Coming back...
So where did we start? You're feeling good?
Yeah, well, I wanted to go back to, like, when you say things to me that I'm like, where in
I never answered that question.
Fuck?
It's really hard for me because people ask me that. And even in my book, I have to quote... I have to give you credit where credit's due, you know? Like, it's difficult for me because when I say something, my memory works in a strange way. It's usually like an amalgamation of lots of influences from different cultures. Like, if I say something that I think is true and wise that helps in a situation, probably I've heard something very similar to it from, like, Jesus, Gandhi, Sadhguru, Alan Watts, Einstein, math. I've read, you know, all disciplines. To me, those truths are like translated in a lot of different ways and said in a lot of different ways. So it's really difficult sometimes for me to give credit because I don't think I try to put everything together. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, because...
And also, I tend to think in an extremely reductive method. Like, what is the common denominated source of this problem? If you take all the feelings and all the confusion and all the variables out of it, what's actually going on here? And, okay, if I understand it enough to create a solution or a positive influence, then what is the most simple thing I can say that will make the most impact for this person that's going to hear me? And then I practice my whole life at explaining things simply or saying something extremely useful, which isn't going to be complicated. Intelligent speaking can complicate the shit out of everything. You know, like wisdom is the opposite of that, I think. It's saying something in simple terms that has deeply important and wide-ranging impact. So that's sort of how I operate. I generally don't want to talk about it for a half an hour. I want to be able to like give you something useful in a sentence.
I think that is such an art form, and you are so good at it. Sometimes, like, okay, so if we're at home and I find myself, and I used to do this a lot more than what I do now because I have been sitting with myself a lot more. So I feel like the codependency of you like validating me like over and over again multiple times a day has lessened. Okay. Yeah. So which I'm very like I think that's great, you know. But what I think is cool is that still, you know, these little, I like to call them like little pearls of a conversation. I think it's fantastic when I feel a certain way and I can pull back and say, hey, and I can just tell you can you do that reductive, like reduced thing where you put all of my emotion and you just tell me what that is, and it only takes you maybe a few moments, and you'll just come out with this like beautiful thing that really it hits me so deeply because it's so reduced, and that's really what it feels like to me. And I'm like, thank you. Like, it just feels really, and I really think that is just as important as sculpting or painting a picture, or like painting a painting, or you know, doing a dance. Like, that is your art form, and I think it's such a gift.
Well,
and I hope that you realize like how valuable that is for someone like me who has not practiced as much, but it's also very inspirational that I can have that little thing in my life that I can just kind of go on to and see that. Like, you oftentimes tell me, like, I love to watch you dance. I will literally dance while I'm cooking. I'll dance while I'm getting dressed. Like, it comes through me, and it just feels really good. And I think that your wordsmithing is very much like my dancing, and I think it's a beautiful thing that we can share with each other on you know, on an intimate level. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do. That makes perfect sense. I like it too. And that's the interesting thing about talents is, and you said like you think it's my talent, and I'm starting to think that too, because it doesn't feel special to me. That's the way talents are. They're what feels the most natural and easy to you. So it's easy to discredit them, I think. Yeah. But also, it's what I do is sort of a trick that always makes me feel like it's not that valuable, because what I actually do when I'm talking to another person is deeply understand them. Like, I really listen to them, what they're saying, try to understand and be empathetic, how they're actually feeling, why they may be feeling that way, and what could change it, you know. So when I do speak back to a person, I think it strikes them like, not because I'm so smart, but because I can actually articulate how they're feeling a lot of times better than they can. Because it's hard for a person to understand themselves. It's hard for me to understand me. But if somebody else is really trying to understand me, they can do it better than me, it seems like. Anyway, people like being deeply understood. They like being heard. And it makes it seem pretty magical, I think.
You know what I think is super interesting is that, okay, we're talking about like being heard and reduced, certain talents. Okay. You and I were talking, it was probably like, I'd say a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about being, you know, in the present moment and connection to other people and relationships and friendships. And, you know, also too, that like there are probably couples or friends, they might have conversations like how we do, or it might be very interesting for other people, or unique, I could say, for other people to see two people looking at each other in the eyes and having conversation and really listening to each other speak. Because some people don't have that. Like, they don't have...
Man, that's bummer too. Everybody deserves it, you know.
So we were talking a couple weeks ago, and we were like, I told you, I'm like, you know, it'd be really cool if we had a bunch of our friends over and we had a silent dinner where none of us can talk.
Yeah, that's
and
good
we
idea.
can, and I still want to do that. And there's kind of like a part of me that wants to record the experience. Like, I don't want to cheapen the experience by trying to record it, but at the same time, how interesting and how intimate that would be to come up with like really social, experimental type situations, and the people that we care about. Like, the reason why they're friends with us is because we do weird shit all the time.
Probably,
you know what I mean? Like, that's their, like, it's not, I wouldn't say their expectation, but that is some of the intrigue of being our friends, is that we do put people in strange situations. Like, do you want to come over and not talk to us and have dinner? And we can't, all we have to do is just like look at each other. But what a wonderful experience to have with people that you love, and to come maybe to experience just being with each other without the rattling of conversation, and just being in the space with one another and finding that connection. And it's weird to me that that's not a thing, because we've been, you know, I've been on this earth for 40 years. In 40 years of my life, I've never thought to just have dinner and not speak to anybody, but to practice the connection. Yeah. Why isn't that a thing? Because it's fucking cool.
It is. It is. You're going to have to like confiscate their cell phones though.
Oh, no one's allowed to have a cell phone.
Yeah, because you know the first feeling everybody's going to have is to like reach for a phone.
Hell no. Hell no.
I like
They're going to be like, Lindsay, so basically you guys are taking us captive. Yes, there's no talking, there's no phones. We're all going to look at each other.
It's a good experience.
Let's do that soon.
Okay.
God, that's going to be cool. Like, it might be like totally awkward. But
you know what's funny about this whole thing? I'm going to make this, you know how I do. I like to make this overlooking observation right now, is that we are so opposite. And it's crazy how we do this dance and where we kind of come together. Like, I spent most of my life, like, the way I felt towards, like, silence and solitude was like a warm, safe blanket. It would, like, socializing was the thing that I was averse to. It was off-putting to me. And you were, like, exactly the opposite. So you're discovering this comfort and silence and solitude as you grow in your path, and and it's cool seeing you become really attracted and interested in it, because I understand. And then I'm also doing the opposite thing where I'm trying to like I'm recording myself talking to people, and I have like guests, and I'm putting myself out live, all very uncomfortable for me, but I'm learning, you know, the usefulness of it and the attraction to it, and it's cool that we do the opposite thing somehow in the same way all the time. Yeah,
which, by the way, if you know, if anyone who is listening has listened to the Dustin Ogle is it Dustin Ogle podcast?
I haven't even came up with the name yet. It just says Dustin Ogle on it. And you know, somebody actually mentioned, they were like, "Bro, you're kind of feeling yourself there, aren't you?" And I was like, honestly, I never thought how arrogant that looks.
No, but
I just really wanted people to be able to find the damn thing.
Yeah, the Dustin Ogle podcast. No, but I mean, like, but hey, it is what it is. What I'm saying
what if I named it something weird?
That was not. That's because of me. I have been telling you for years, so I'm taking full credit for your cool podcast, because I told you, I said, you have got to talk in front of large groups of people.
It's true. Without your encouragement, I would still be reading a book in my closet, probably.
Ooh, yes. I've been telling you for years. I'm like, so honestly, if your Dustin Ogle podcast like rips it and like has like millions of viewers, I want to state for the record now, as of today, that it was because of me.
All royalties go
to me, because I have been working on this shit for so long. I'm like, man, you really have to do it. And you're like,
it's true.
No, I can't. I don't.
But I've always liked that about you. You're always inspiring to me, I think. And it's always small stuff. It maybe not seem significant to you, but just inspired to do something weird, inspired to go out, inspired to talk to people, whatever it is. I'm an adventure person, but so I like that you inspire that in our lives and for our kids.
Yeah. And
you're really good at it.
Yeah. Which, by the way, our daughter wants to make a craft tonight. She was asking me. I'm going to have to talk to you about that after the podcast. You know,
craft sounds like a mess.
I know, but she really wants to do it.
I like it.
So I'm like, okay, we'll figure it out. We'll get something going.
What is it, like gunpowder and slime? And
she wants to make a doll. So
what?
Like, she
like
follows
a voodoo
this
doll?
Well, I mean, she follows this YouTuber lady, and by the way, she is just completely spazzed all the way out. But like, kids love it because shit, I should probably do like a kids YouTube thing, because it's all about like constant intrusive thoughts and inner thoughts streaming out loud, and they're talking about everything, and they love it. And oh my gosh, do you love pink? I love pink. We're gonna put pink hair on this doll. Look at this hair. Look how pink it is. It's fluffy. It's fluffy. It's fluffy. And I'm going, fuck.
I'm not sure those people are altogether sane.
Well, that's why I'm perfect for this, because it's right up my alley. I could have like you could have your own podcast. I could have a children's YouTube thing. And Luna's like, Mom, can we play? Shut up. We're making a YouTube video. And then
they're crazy good at it. What?
Like ignoring your own children so that other children can watch you fucking play with dolls on the internet. Like, shut the fuck up. I'm doing this now.
Those people are either incredibly skilled or incredibly insane. Because
they're a little of both.
They're talking, they're like doing the characters, and they have the feelings of all of the characters of all these toys, and they're making it feel real.
Well, especially when she's watching like that Minecraft shit where it's like they're like having these virtual battles with each other, and they're like, and I'm like, I tell her, like, sometimes like I don't have it.
You know what it reminds me of?
I can't have that near me.
Yeah, you know what it reminds me of? Schizophrenia. And I mean that, not you. You can't, you don't do what they do, bro.
Maybe
you could, but maybe you shouldn't.
So either
maybe it's not a great thing to practice.
That's what I'm saying. Do I want a healing spiritual journey and go into the self, or do I want to make some money on the YouTube?
Yeah, here we are trying to meditate and like stop our inner thoughts and be presently aware of everything. And these people are just a stream of consciousness.
Yeah,
man, it's scary.
It's just funny.
Kids love it.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
I was what was it, a couple weeks ago when I I told my massage therapist that I had like a vision, because I had been opening up my intuition and my psychic abilities through different meditations. Oh, absolutely, I did. But like, we're like kind of
She'll
friends.
Never be back.
Well, she already knows. She already knows how I am.
Yeah,
and
kidding.
So she's like, well, let me know what you. So I was telling her like my visions that I saw, and she goes, I don't know. I don't really. I said, well, maybe I just have schizophrenia. I don't know. And then she just started cracking up, and I'm like, well, I don't know. Like,
either way, the visions are real.
Yeah, anyone who's listening and you do have schizophrenia, I am not laughing at you at all. I know it's a serious condition, and I'm very sorry that that's happening to you. It's not, I mean, it's not in my life that I'm trying to be unassailable. I'm going to say some shit, but I also don't want to hurt anybody's feelings if that is something, because I do know people who do suffer from schizophrenia, and that is a very serious thing. So let's just
that's why it reminded me of it, because I used to sit and listen to a guy when I was a pizza maker.
I remember you telling me this.
In a small part of town, and this guy would walk from a house, I think halfway house or something, and he would just sit there and talk to me all day while I made pizza, and he was deeply affected by his condition, and he would have different personalities, different thoughts. And what was strange is he was intelligent and articulate. I mean, that dude's vocabulary was incredible, and he would be saying the most brilliant shit you've ever heard in your life, and then like 5 minutes later he would just be like involved in a conspiracy and forget who I was. It's like he couldn't. I can't understand schizophrenia, but it's definitely not good for people. So I'm sorry it happens to people.
Yeah, same. Like, I don't want to be like, schizophrenia, it's fucking hilarious. It's really not fucking hilarious at all. Like, it's a terrible thing.
Yeah,
and I
not something you would want to practice.
Hell yeah. That's what I'm saying, though. But what I'm saying is that I do suffer from intrusive thoughts, okay?
Sure.
And, you know, I think that does... I don't claim it, but I do feel like I have a healthy dose of being susceptible to ADHD. you know, but calming my mind and, you know, really it's just, for me, I don't wear the hat of, oh shit, I got the ADHD, you know, but I do think to myself, I am a little bit more designed to resisting clearing the mind and allowing myself to be in the present moment. And I just have to work maybe a little harder than the average Joe.
It's a good observation.
Or Josephine. Grandpa and Grandma Josephine. Josephine.
Sure.
Laying in a bed. But yeah, man. But I also think too that like I am very grateful that my brain works the way that it does because there are benefits to it.
Yeah.
And I fully am so grateful for it. Like I can be off the cuff, super funny because I can pick and choose what intrusive thought that I want to share. And sometimes they're really funny and they're very clever. So I like how maybe being a particular type of way makes me kind of like silly or funny, you know.
Intriguing is the word I use. You're always intriguing and unpredictable to me, which is saying something.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, like, it's not that I didn't like the way that I was. I just knew that I could manage things a little bit differently so that, you know, I could click on my little highs of being silly and funny, but those lows that, you know, come with the highs, like I can be able to manage.
It's nice to see you in control of it.
Yeah.
And the things you had to do, then learn, and now you're getting to share them with other people, and that's been awesome for you. You're really good at it. Like there's this whole group of people already that are just super happy to be engaging with you and learning from you. I think that's an awesome thing. I think it's really cool when anybody learns something that works for them and they're willing to share it.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like, it's funny that you're saying that because by these practices, it has given me the gift of being able to listen to other people and to learn from other people when quote unquote ADHD people, right? Like we're just kind of everywhere, woo, what? And we're just kind of in the mix of everything. But when you can train your brain and you can train, you know, yourself to find that stillness and practice feeling good in that stillness, right? It allows you to be able to sit and listen to someone and your brain's not going crazy. So you can actually learn all different. I feel like in the last several months that I've been practicing all of this, I have learned so much more because my ears are open and I'm open to receive information. And I really want to listen and learn. Before it was very hard. Like you would be talking.
That's a good point because you can't think. You really can't think new thoughts. I mean, if you're constantly thinking, you're really only bringing up stuff you already know. You've probably already thought about. So that is kind of a detriment if you can't turn it off.
Right.
But I'm interested in. Do you mind sharing like some strategies or practices, or how did you get control of it?
I'm actually doing one right now. Like when I get excited or when I feel like speaking of listening to you, I want to listen to other people. When my brain starts flow, or like just small instances, like we're sitting here right now, I got really excited because it is something that I'm very proud about. But as soon as I started talking about how I like to listen to you and you were responding to me, I had something else that I wanted to say. So before, that would have overtook me and I would have interrupted you because I needed to say that. But to calm down like that, maybe the anxiety of forgetting what I was going to say was more important to me than your response to me. But I think to myself now, if it is so, and if it is meant to be, you're going to listen to what this person has to say, you know, no matter who it is, right? And just be here. And if it's that important, it will come to you again when the time is relevant. It's no longer relevant. Allow them to speak. You see, but like there has to be.
That's interesting.
And my body, like, I don't know if you can see it, and I'd love to see the playback on the video, but like my legs started shaking. And when I noticed that, I just completely relax.
You're quite still now compared to how you used to be. I think it's interesting that your body becomes more still as you get more and more authority over your mind.
So when I feel that, so I think of obviously like shaking my leg, like there's something inside of me, like my body's telling me like you've got like some sort of feeling that is very intense. So for me to get over it, I literally just relax my leg, and I'll take a few deep breaths, and I'll come back to where you are. And it's hard, and
so you go directly into body awareness.
Yes,
essentially, which is a kind of meditation, right?
Or like even like sometimes I'll move my hands, or I'll like something. I used to bite my nails a lot, and that would just kind of, it had to be like this intense thing. But like for me, it's the leg shaking, or it's moving around in my, there's something inside. And so I have to say, I am safe, I'm okay, and I'm listening to my husband, or I'm listening to my friend. Everything's all right. Come back to the space, Lens. And I really do say things like that to myself, and it immediately calms me down. Now, I think probably in this particular situation, I drank a bunch of coffee this morning. Yeah. So I think it's more of like a caffeine thing, but it's still the same.
Yeah, you'll be stimulated, right? Yeah. It's a good time to practice.
Yeah. Yep. But I have my coffee and my water like down here. And so it's funny because I'm like, you can make a choice. Do you want water or do you want coffee? And I keep going, coffee, coffee, coffee. And now I'm like, and so then with my ADHD, woo, like, I'm just really healing here. Got it all under control. What?
Oh my God.
What was it? I think it was that cartoon, that animated movie, Meet the Robinsons, where she's like, every patch of or she made like a patch that had like 16 cups of coffee, and they were all over her body, and she was like, bleh! She's like, oh, I don't know where that came from. Like she couldn't even like, I'm like, man, if a cartoon character could be anybody, that
oh, it's not that bad.
No, yeah.
This is not important, but it's funny that my favorite animated version of being too hyper was, I can't remember the name of the movie. There's this little squirrel thing that was super hyper, like all the time.
Ice Age.
I think maybe. Well, they needed him to do something that required the use of his hyperness. Oh. I don't know. So they gave him an energy drink or something. So he drank it, and then you could see him getting pumped up like he was about to go crazy. But the way they did the film was so ingenious, because as soon as the caffeine kicked in on this little thing that was already hyper, it didn't show it as him going extra crazy. It showed it as the whole world slowed down. And he was just like, this is weird. Everybody's still. Is it ever like that for you? You're like, why is everybody moving so slow?
No, it's actually a lot scarier. And I don't think I have ever told you this before. When I get to like an intense level, okay, I will not remember a lot of the things that I've said or done because I am so wrapped.
I've experienced that. Not for myself, from you.
Yeah. And that I mean, I don't think that I've ever like said this out loud really to anybody. It is very scary that when I have not managed my stillness and presence, is I will not be able to recall like I'd say significant amounts of time, and it scares almost the shit out of me. Like I'm almost drunk
or unconscious.
Yeah. Oh, very. Like that's exactly what it is.
But you're awake. Your mind is running so hot that you're literally unconscious to your like presence and awareness.
Yeah, well, people say like when they drive and stuff, like you kind of go into the state and you forget. Like it's like that, but I have the understanding that I have done many things and said many things, and I can't recall them.
Yeah, and we were talking about that this morning, about the dangers of our automatic and autonomic systems, and why they would be dangerous. Because they're not altogether bad. A lot of them are, evolved to really help us in a lot of ways. But there is a reason to believe that it's way better to be awake and conscious and aware of yourself, because your automatic systems will slide you into this shit place. They just have a way of being a little more attracted to negativity, a little more attracted to pumping up your ego, which is mostly based around fears. And that's a bummer that we have that. I don't think so. You really do have to be working toward being a better version of yourself, at least a little bit, all the time of your life. And I don't think anybody, like, people don't really just say that out loud. Like, everybody just kind of feels like we should be just fine without making an effort.
Well, I think one of the most powerful things that one person can do is to be very, very fucking honest with themselves and take responsibility for the things that they're not like that great at. Because as soon as you can acknowledge and take responsibility for your shortcomings, then you can work on those things, not using them as an excuse because you're lacking in that department, but saying, what can I improve? And I think that's what's fucked up to me, is that, like, some people do struggle with, like, that type of, would it be like humility, or what would that be called? Like, I don't know what that particular thing is, but for me, it is literally like one of the most powerful things that I've done with myself is saying, okay, like, I think that I'm a little low in that department.
Well, I think what happens is you diminish your egoic functioning when you do that, because I mean, I'm no expert in psychology, and the word ego gets really confused a lot with, like, arrogance and stuff. But really, there's a mechanism inside of human beings that something like protect us from our fears that really trumps us up in that way. And it makes us, like, want to believe that our ideas are complete and the things we know are all there is, and they must be right, and we should defend them, instead of being aware that you're incredibly ignorant and your ideas are all bad. And all of that will be proven in some time. But if you're the first one to get there, man, that's what you really want. You really want to, like, have the courage to admit your ignorance and look for it and allow your ideas to change. Oh, I think Carlos wants in.
I really want to hear what you're saying, but they're like and I can hear it. And I feel bad.
No, he just wants held. Carlos likes podcasting.
He does. But I really want to hear what you're saying, though. Can you finish it?
Yeah.
I mean, continue. Not finish. Continue.
Yeah, I think that's the main secret of being human that I've found that works for me so far, is that if you can have the courage to take these great adventures in life, what you're going to get is, like, this feeling of discomfort and being out of your comfort zone, and, like, this feeling of being challenged and this feeling of having struggle. And then if you do that enough, you're going to realize that is exactly what you want. That is where everything is. This weird idea that we want to be comfortable and hidden and convinced that all of our ideas are right and that's all we ever need. That seems like a good place to be. But it really is terrible. If you stay there too long, man.
Yeah.
If you can build up the courage to just be like, okay, most of my ideas are probably stupid. Today I need to work on figuring out where and how they're stupid, and what can I learn today. And if I have a reaction to something and I want to say something, I feel compelled to say something, I'd stop first and remove my feelings from it and look at it for what it really is. I'm like, am I saying anything, or am I spitting my feelings on this person? because there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So we're talking about, like, you know, being honest with yourself and being able, like, being able to be okay with a little humility, right? Like, you know, just to kind of maybe tell yourself some stuff that is not like, I just think it's strange that, okay, how do I describe this? Okay. And we can cut this out too if it sounds stupid. Please do. So as a whole, so the society, so like this, the masses, the mob, the crowd, whatever, like we as a people have decided to, you know, choose, like, I would say more so than, you know, as of recently, I feel like there's a lot of victim narratives going on. And I will be the first one to say, okay, really messed up shit happens to good people and it sucks. And I think there needs to be an awareness, because what we're lacking is compassion. I think that as a society, I think if all of us are a little bit more compassionate, a little bit nurturing, we've lived in a very like wounded masculine, which means like we're going to do this and we're going to build and we're going to whatever, and we're constantly trying to, you know, yeah, you know, we live, it's capitalism, you know what I mean? Like you got to work and you got to work hard and you got to do these things and you got to, you know, and everyone has this constant need, or this constant, I don't know if it's fear or if it's this like just feeling inside of yourself that, okay, I have to keep producing, because if I don't produce something, then I'm not worth a shit in the wrong ways. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, got to make more money and you got to do this and we're all, you know, you got to be the best and blah, blah, blah. So I think the counter to that approach that we have adapted, whatever, or implemented into society is this weird like victim narrative. And I think the whole victim narrative is really trying to bring people back into compassion and nurturing and healing and love, but I think is being done in a very fucking wrong way. Like, I think that is not the approach that we need to take, and there's better ways that we can approach trying to get people to express empathy and compassion and love and understanding. And it doesn't have to be because of expressing all of these sad fucking things. And I think it's also like being able to relate to someone and have something resonate with you so that you can feel those things. And so many, and then sharing videos where many people can feel those things. But I think what we're doing wrong with that is that we're turning it into all of these sad stories and we're not letting go or releasing those things. So it's storing inside of our body. And that's why I feel like people are getting sick. That's just how I feel about it. Do you think that's, do you get where I'm coming from?
I do. Like, I do understand you. It's a lot. That's a lot. That was actually impressive, because it was a huge evaluation of a socioeconomical structure, then how it interacts with people's personal psychology and how they handle their lives and their communications with other humans. And I think there's a lot true about it. I think we are a country, our culture, Western culture, you could say, that it does try to do really amazing and very difficult things that take very strong people to do. But culturally, we've made ourselves very weak. We have a lot of very weak-charactered and weak-bodied people still trying to do something that takes a tremendous amount of strength. If you don't have the strength to withstand the power you're trying to impose, you'll be injured. And our people are injured. And I do think your evaluation, generally speaking, is probably accurate, that we're like, people are breaking themselves emotionally. And then their response to it that you give is that they've realized they're breaking themselves emotionally. We have this huge epidemic of mental health problems and such, and drug problems and all this, you know. So there's people trying to help themselves in a lot of ways. Some of them are just doing drugs or drinking. Some of them are trying to seek treatment. And then there's a big group of them that are trying to just adopt this notion of self-love and self-care and basically become very self-compassionate but you're right, it's sort of not working out because it's so easy for ego to get that and tilt it like, oh, I'm entitled to this. Other people owe it to me. And it turns into compassionate narcissism, to where people start to feel like they're not actually being compassionate to others. They're like trying to force other people to live a certain way under the guise of compassionate stuff. And then people are attacking each other. It's really just a big mess. What do you think the solution, though, is?
Well, that's honestly, I was kind of going on. I wanted to make sure that I was expressing it or communicating it to you properly, because like it's cool when we have conversations, because you are formally educated. I am not. I'm educated by the streets. Like everything that I feel, like I don't know why I feel that way, but I try to express, and I feel like I'm a pretty decent communicator because I'm in my feels. You know what I mean? Like that's how I've learned, is through people. And so like when you said, oh, that sounds like the economic whatever, blah, 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 you started, I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Like that's exactly what I felt. But like what I'm saying is that I think that there is a need for empathy and compassion, and really that is the feminine, that's the softer side. And I just find it interesting that like things that are the divine feminine, which is compassion, empathy, nurturing, love, healing, acceptance, being able to receive help. A lot of people, female, male,
people don't know what those things mean anymore. I swear, like compassion and empathy, when you say that to people, they think it sounds like something very easy and very nice to do. Ugh. And those things are difficult. They require strength of character. So weak people have a hard time being compassionate. I think sometimes hurt people can be extremely empathetic. That's good, but
it hurt.
But being empathetic and compassionate means letting people have their ideas, allowing people to make mistakes and not judging them or attacking them for it, not talking shit about them, not canceling people if they screw up.
Yeah.
Because you screw up too. I know if you're a human and you're alive right now,
you said some dumb shit in your life.
You have screwed up, or you've never tried at anything. And that's even worse. So
I just don't think it's yielding the results that we want, because the approach and the understanding is just, and I think we're gonna get to a place, because like when you said hurt people have empathy, yes, but then you get so hurt and so empathetic, then you don't know what the fuck you're supposed to do with it. So there has to, like, I feel like we are in a stagnant place with expressing our hurt, so people that can resonate, and so people can see, like, you know, and it's almost like walk a mile in my shoes. Do you see what I'm saying? Like that is the goal. But what I'm saying is that what do we, now that we are expressing this, now that we all can relate to each other, what is that? My question to you is, what is that next step? Because I feel like we just haven't gotten to that part as a society, because that's where it needs to go. There's no direction. There's no trajectory to
We're doing new stuff. We're doing new stuff, yeah. I think I have like all of the different philosophies running through my head, and all of the different practical psychological applications running through my head. I have lots of different theories running through my head that I've heard other people say. But you know, it always comes down to a couple ideas for me. And I don't subscribe much to organized religion, but you just can't beat the golden rule to start with. You know, from Jesus, I assume you credit Jesus for the do unto others as you would do, or you would have them do unto you, you know. That's, if you really think about that, like really put effort into thinking about that.
In the depths.
That is not easy. It's one of the hardest damn things you'll ever do. You see somebody hurting themselves or screwing up or whatever, you really stop and think, what would I would love for that person to do for me if the roles were reversed? And if you just if you want to practice in life, I think that would help you and help your community. That one is still going to be the best. But my version of that would be, I think people in our country need to work on their strength. I think
strength of character,
strength of body, strength of mind, strength of character. I think strength has been villainized because it got confused with power, and
power is machoism or something.
Yeah, and power is very scary, but strength is very different. Strength is the ability to withstand. It's very different than power, which is the ability to impose. And I think almost everything we agree as a culture that we like requires strength to do well. Weak people have trouble being truly compassionate. Like, well, I don't like saying it like I'm judging people. Like, when I'm weak, it's the hardest time for me to be empathetic. When I'm weak and insecure, it's the most difficult time for me to lift somebody up or to do something positively impactful or influence someone. When I'm weak, it's the most likely time that I'm going to lie or do something stupid or make a bad decision. Because when I'm weak, it's not that I become more emotional, it's that I don't have the ability to handle my emotions, and I'm worried more about me and my survival. Mm-hmm. And I don't have the ability to worry about other people. I think cutting out strength is a poor choice. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that includes your body. You know, a lot of people seem to forget this. I do. Forget that your mind is part of your body. I mean, your mind is your brain. Maybe it's not your spirit, but your mind is definitely your brain. Your brain is a part of your body. If you're weak, injured, dehydrated, hungover, withdrawing, like it's easy to forget that affects your mind. It affects how you think. That affects what you say. That affects what you do.
You can kind of almost like compare it to when you have like a cold or the flu and your body feels like shit.
Great example.
And you're irritable and you're just like, ugh, you know, like you think of that, but like the opposite. Like, okay, if I am exercising, if I'm drinking a lot of water, if I'm eating well, if I'm whatever, like it's weird to me that like, okay, so you have the middle, so like you have you as right now, and then you have the next choice that you're going to make. Like it's crazy that when you have the flu and you feel like shit and you're like, oh, thank God, I don't have the flu anymore. That sucked balls. I hated every sec. It feels so good to feel good again. It's weird that well, for me anyway, I know that you do it, but like there is a large group of people that will feel well after feeling ill, but they don't realize that there is the opposite side of that, of working out, eating well, whatever. And they're like, I'm going to go to Burger King and eat a friggin' double Whopper, which I've done it before, you know, and like drink a Coke. Whoppers. I do too. But what I'm saying is that, you know, like after you feel, if you feel like shit, then you have to be able to feel the other way, because this is your middle ground. This is how you normally feel. So if you know that you can feel this bad, you know that you can feel this good, but you know, it's hard to make that decision of saying like, I'm going to go and work out, or I'm going to go and, you know, or I'm going to sit here and do something that it's hard for me.
It requires discipline and routine, and it's for everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I've noticed the hardest time, well, it's not hard, not like a rock. The most difficult time for me to do well with those things is when I'm doing well. Mm-hmm. When you do start to feel great, you like instantly start to feel like you're invincible, or at least I do. Yeah. I'm like, fuck it, I can eat whatever I want. Mm-hmm. I can do whatever I want. I'll drink way too much of that.
Yeah, it was crazy. I went to the grocery store the other day, or yesterday actually, and I was so pissed off when I came back. I'm like, I was making chicken noodles and mashed potatoes. I'm like,
God, so
we only
good.
have real potatoes. We don't even have the instant potatoes. Damn it, I can't warm them. And then I thought, those aren't even potatoes. They're not like you.
Well, I think they are,
you know,
but they're not good. They have shit in them that's not good for you.
Oh no, they have a package that says naturals. So the ones that I've been buying, it didn't even have the. It didn't have.
What
the
do they
word
make
naturals.
it out of?
Oh fucking know.
What could you find cheaper than potatoes?
Like tiny molecules of plastic and mush that's melted down with water.
Yeah.
No, I'm not for sure what I've been feeding my family, but I kind of giggled to myself because I'm like, oh, if I put it in the Instapot, I have to wait 5 minutes before they cook, and then I have to wash the fucking blenders
that
when I get done.
Boy.
Eat a real potato, bitch. Like, eat a real potato.
Right.
Like, stop feeding your kids alien food from plastic and make real potatoes.
Yeah, it's hard, though.
What is wrong? Like 5 minutes. I have, like, all this technology that will allow me to cook something. Like, we're not over the fire, you know, hunting and gathering our food. Like, I literally just, like, bought it.
Just pressure cooked them for 5 minutes.
Pressure cooked them for 5 minutes, and that was a big deal to me. And I'm going to be honest with you, I made the chicken in the same pot. All I did was rinse it, and so the potatoes even got a little bit of seasoning from the chicken. Because I didn't even have to wash the thing.
So
like,
good,
there was no soap and water in between.
Good. No.
But how convenient to work, you know, to be able to use these pieces of kitchen equipment that would cut my time down into like 1/100th.
Yeah, there's so many things like that, though, that are...
But I still think it's hard.
It is hard. There's so many things like that that are more convenient, so we do it that way. And some of them aren't even so obvious, like healthy food.
Yeah.
Like texting your friend instead of calling them. There's a difference there. And it might be important, especially if you add up all of those differences over your entire day, over your entire life.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that very thing, like, took me into a conversation. It relates. So I have this woman that I've been working with, and I love her to death. She's amazing, but she's been struggling with some health issues, and so she's like, hey, like, how long do I have to do this spiritual shit of like calming my nervous system and calming down to where I don't have to do it anymore? And I'm like, look,
when is this going to heal me and I'll be there?
The best way that I could describe it to her, and is, think about if Western medications, right? Which, I mean, some people, like, you do need them. If you have a chemical imbalance, like, I'm not saying like nobody needs medication, like, do what's good for you, but she's trying to do it like in a more natural way because she's, you know, she don't want to be dependent on medications.
Fair.
So I'm like, cool. So like, we're doing all these like little things, and like, really, it's like, it starts at like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, whatever. And I just thought it was so fucking hilarious that she asked me like, okay, like, when can I stop? When is it done?
Right.
Like, when am I cured? Okay.
How long's the treatment plan?
Well, the best way that I could describe it is that, like, it is not just going and picking up some fast food, shoving it in your face, and then getting diarrhea afterwards because it felt like awful. You see what I'm saying? Which I've done that several times. Go through a drive-thru and I'm like, this is delicious, and it makes you feel good. And then you're like, my stomach hurts, and you almost shit your pants. That's what that is. In my personal experience, that's what it was. The Western medications, just taking those, like, they made me feel like shit. Like, I do not think that I was a good candidate for just doing that because they actually made me feel worse.
You're talking about like mood medications or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just calming your nervous system down in that way. It is a way that you can do that. Does it work for people? I'm sure that it does. But for me, like, it made me very sick. And so... and I'm associating this to food because, like, I love food, but the spiritual practices is that you have this beautiful plot of land, and you're going to plow and till that land and plant these seeds, and you're going to be very intentional about where you're putting these seeds so that you can grow them, and then you're going to cover them up. Okay, and you're
like, the land is your body.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The land is your experience with your healing.
Okay.
And so what is this, a metaphor, simile? You know what I'm talking about.
That's a good metaphor.
So then, you know, you're covering that, and you're looking at the weather, and you're saying, okay, there's a lot of sunshine today. That's great. This is going to be great for this this garden that I'm creating, right? And then you're going to sit there. If there hasn't been enough water, you're just going to have to add a little bit of water, and you're going to walk the rows, and you're going to see the growth of these plants, right? Like that's inside of you, right? And what I'm telling her is that you grow them, you harvest the things that you need for the times that you need them to take care of yourself at that time. You take them back into your kitchen of life, and you wash them, and you prepare them, and you cook them, and then you eat them, and then you feel the nutrition that you provided. And it was not given, but it was earned. And so it feels and it tastes, and the experience is so fucking good. You never want to stop gardening. You forget that it would be a chore, because the nourishment that you get from doing it in this way
becomes a new way of life that's more rewarding.
And she was just like, so how long?
Forever, bitch.
Forever, motherfucker. No, forever, bitch. No, but like it really.
Ask me in 3 months.
Yes, that part, because you have to do that, and I like. Okay, so when we started this talk, and I was like, man, I have been really neglecting my garden of healing and life and nourishment that I'm putting into my life. And I can feel that. But what's cool is that I've already tilled the land. I have all the things that I need. All I need to do is just go back to that garden, and I don't have to be mad about it. Doesn't mean I have to burn my garden down because I fucking suck and I hate myself. That's not what it is. And
you're going to fall off the wagon.
Yeah, I've spent enough time in my own garden that it feels so good that I know that I can just go back and give it that life that it deserves.
That's an important thing to remember that I've learned. I've heard it articulated many, many ways. One of my favorite ways is to liken it to sailing a ship, which not many people sail ships, but surely they understand what I'm talking about. It's that a ship that's sailing, or even an aircraft that's flying, isn't staying on course 100% of the time. And in fact, it's on course very few percent of the time. It spends the entire time actually correcting course. That's all sailing actually is correcting course constantly. It's the only way you can get in a direction and to a destination, which is pretty similar to life. Like every minute, you're really correcting course of what you want to be doing and thinking about if you're aware. Every hour, every day, to different degrees and different strengths. And over months, you have to stop and reflect and be like, okay, I need to correct my monthly course. I need to correct my yearly course. Where am I headed? So if you know that, then you don't really kick yourself in the nuts when you make a mistake. You just tell yourself, oh, time to correct course.
Yes. I've never
wake up with a hangover, and you're just like, you can really feel bad about yourself.
Oh yeah.
If you have to make the apology texts to the people you said stupid shit to, like, you can really beat yourself up, or you can correct course. And one feels really good. That's the cool thing about being in control and aware of yourself, that is, it doesn't have to feel bad. In fact, it feels amazing. The moment you decide to do something worthwhile, it feels good. And you can do it anytime you want. You can do it over and over again. In fact, you'll have to. Because you can't just do it today and it's going to stay for you.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, that was me. This weekend I had a few bevies, few Beverleys, and I was like, woo, and I actually caught myself because, we were partying with our friends at a celebration, and just having a great time. And I was able to figure out that, like, I was not in the right frame of mind for just a few kind of instances. And I'm like, I'm going to take a walk, and it wasn't that I was trying to be mad or, like, I'm going to walk over here and get attention. Hopefully people, no, I needed to just go, like, create space, not for anything else other than the fact that I knew that I was not in the right headspace to to be valuable in an awesome way.
That's very self-aware.
Yeah, and it really, and I said, I'm just gonna do it, and I just start walking. I'm like, okay, because I really do feel like, energy, man.
Yeah, if
energy.
You can't, yeah.
And sometimes that bad energy is you, and when you can notice it, whoa, bro, how good does that feel to be able to just say, ooh, I'm the problem, it's me. I'm gonna walk over here and I'm just gonna kind of give myself a timeout and come back into who I know is me.
Yeah, and regroup and ask, well, am I making this situation better or worse?
Yeah.
Do I really have anything to add that's going to help?
No.
That's a good way to avoid dumping your ego on people.
Yeah. And it kind of hits you strong too, especially when you had some Beverleys, man.
Oh yeah,
Beverleys will like make you feel some type of way, like I
turn you into a stranger.
Yeah, I was just I was talking to my my little group of women that I love so much, and we just have this little like circle of sisterhood on this group page, right? Mm-hmm. And I was telling them, I was like, you know what, like today is going to be the day where I catch myself and I say, okay, is that healing? Is that growing me? Is that, is this where I need to, or is it not? And just like little things like that, I feel like this has been one of the best conversations that I've had in a really long time. And it was because like five minutes before we started, I made a promise to myself that like, I'm just going to say things that, from my heart. Like, it's not like, oh, look at me,
Yeah,
it's more fun.
This is a good conversation.
Yeah. Are you hungry?
I'm getting there, yeah.
You want to go eat some food?
Sure.
Okay.
So we just end on that.
Oh, yeah. Well,
thanks for coming.
Yeah. Well, we have lots of other things. I think that we did have a list of stuff that we wanted to talk about. Maybe
we do.
Yeah. We have. We
can do more podcasts.
We can.
Yeah. It was really nice talking to you today.
You too. I love you.
I do want to I think it was such a great conversation. We spent so much time essentially talking about not how to be a little better and how not to screw up as much as people. But I really want to move this next time into then how to thrive and excel once you have that. And not that I know all those answers, but
I was going to say, you're probably going to have to take point on that.
But I want to talk about it. I want to speculate about it and have those conversations. Maybe I'll look into refresh myself on what a lot of other people have said.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
I like it.
Yeah? You'll do that with me?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get some food.
Okay. I love you. Oh. Got
jinx.
you.
You owe me a Coke, right?
Pinch poke.
Yeah.